the vast majority of the time you're shipping this product and it's more plastic box than it is product itself. We coined the term the box as a service. Realized we'd stumbled upon something far larger than we had anticipated.
Hi everyone. So today we have an amazing guest in store. So today we'll be having a quick chat with James, who is a co-founder of Boxxdocks and UCL alumni. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it.
Good morning, James. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, dude. Yourself?
All right. Bright and sunny Saturday afternoon, I suppose. Yeah, let's get to it. I'm really excited to, long time waiting, as we said before. Really excited to get start talking with you and really understand your mind frame, your setup, and to really understand the inception of Boxxdocks as we speak. So let's jump into it, James. How are we, first and foremost? How are you keeping?
Well, I was laughing when you said about the sun, because we're in this office and we've just got some new office space down in central Holborn, and you can't see the sun inside. So
really?
It's like it might as well be midnight for me, but it's what's the time now? It's 12:09 at lunchtime. So it makes no difference to me whether it's sunny or not. But yeah, no, all good, busy as always. And yeah, like you said, the call's been like 3 months in the making. So we finally squeeze it in on a Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, there we go. And I think your point, when you're working, the sun never sets,
No. We were actually saying that this week we were working to like 1 a.m, like getting the first samples of our boxes out. So at the moment it's like a constant push.
Brilliant. So I think before we really jump into anything, I think it's worth really giving a really quick introduction about what Boxxdocks is. So of course, James, you're the co-founder of Boxxdocks. So maybe it might be worth giving a really quick introduction about what Boxxdocks is and a little bit about what you all have been up to, because I do understand that I've seen a lot of posts, a lot of competitions that y'all are involved in, a lot of accolades along the way. So, but before we jump into all of that, maybe a really quick introduction about what Boxxdocks is and where y'all see it going.
Yeah. So, well, at Boxxdocks, we're basically building a global network of smart boxes for logistics providers. And we've developed the world's first collapsible plastic box, which folds to what's inside of it, enabling our customers to ship twice as much in the same space. To kind of give you a bit of context, companies like Amazon, GlaxoSmithKline, Walmart, Microsoft and Google, FedEx and Pfizer, they will operate fleets of tote boxes in their back-end logistics. So getting things from manufacturers to suppliers, suppliers to warehouses, warehouses in the back of vans, and storage to customers, as well as companies like Sainsbury's and Tesco's, who will use that to get into stores. But the biggest problem that these companies are facing in their pick and pack operations is most of these boxes are left empty. Now, granted, there'll be days like Black Friday or Prime Day when these boxes are full to the brim, every van is loaded to the top. But the vast majority of the time, these companies are shipping fresh air, wasted space, it compounds to costs. And logistics is a race to the bottom market, where customers are, and companies are constantly trying to find cheaper, more efficient ways to ship more in the same space. And so we're essentially an efficiency provider. But where the company's evolving and where we're going is we're developing a software solution which enables customers to visualize their tote boxes in real time. To kind of give you a kind of a concept of kind of a scale of the market, there are about just over 1 billion of these boxes in operation today. And the market spaces for these, so there's about 1 billion boxes.
I think it's worth the moment to just appreciate that it's a billion boxes now.
1 billion boxes, and just for plastic boxes in logistics, the market size is $80 billion. And the churn rate of these boxes is about 20%, just purely because these are being used all the time, over and over again. So, it's an unloved product in the world of logistics. There's a huge amount of hype going into EVs, going into software solutions for pick and pack. But actually, the tote box is the cornerstone of global logistics. And without this box, nothing on the planet gets shipped. And so we're building out that. And obviously there's the software solution, which is being built on on top of the box, which is what is going to enable customers to visualize their operations, to really get an insight into what's going on, because at the moment they're completely blind to where these boxes are, unless a client phones up and says they haven't received their delivery. So it's a multifaceted kind of business, but yeah, split between the smart boxes themselves and then the real-time tracking operation behind that.
I think I latched very well put there, James, and I think I latched on the two very key important points that you mentioned. One about the scale of the entire operation, when you touch on, like when you're talking about 1 billion boxes.
Yeah.
100 is different from a million. Then you understand the difference, and a million is way different from a billion.
A billion is I think it's a number in which gets battered around a lot in business, and people don't kind of understand really what a billion is.
So that's one thing, James. And the other thing is, like you just mentioned about, how customers don't really understand what's going on until they realize that delivery is late. So it might be worth perhaps coming back. We'll circle back to this and come to understand how big the entire, what's really going on in the back end, because I think it's really worth to understand, to give your vantage point from that side of things, to understand what's really going on in the back end. So let's come back to this on this end. So before we dive in there, James, I think it's also worth maybe perhaps touching a little bit about, where did Boxxdocks start? What was the thinking behind Boxxdocks? And why Boxxdocks? Why logistics? So it might be worth just diving into that. So let's jump into it, James.
Yeah. So I mean, where do we start? So basically, from my personal perspective, I left university at UCL. I studied architecture. And I was working for a practice. This was at the height of COVID. So, this was when police were on the streets, no one was going out, everyone was inside, you didn't see anyone. And I started then, basically what happened was I started working for a logistics consultancy company based out in Richmond, who were doing last mile delivery and getting customers closer to city centers.
Okay.
And in particular, I was drawing the CAD plans for Amazon's parking strategies of their lorries. Like very, very simple, very basic work, but for, in CAD. And through that, I then met my co-founders, but we were then toying around with the idea about this tote box. And Amajid, my co-founder, he's been working in logistics since he's 16. He's just turned 57. And said to Alessandra and myself, listen, these boxes are, mostly empty. James, you can do this CAD stuff. Why don't the three of us come together and we see if we can kind of, play around this idea? So we started on like a Thursday evening in COVID. It's probably about just under 2 years ago, and came up with a few ideas and realized, okay, there's nothing on the market that's doing this. We believe that we could at least get a prototype together that kind of, addresses this issue. And for about, 5 months in, we then set up the company. Once we realized that actually, okay, no one's doing this, we've got a prototype working, and then we just went straight to a customer. We went at the very beginning.
Just interrupted there a bit.
Yeah.
When you said this issue, maybe let's just dive into that. What was the issue your team saw? Because I think that's what's worth really understanding here.
Yeah, so the issue basically is like, in a logistics operation, most of these boxes go into the conveyor belts and they get pick and packed, right? So they come in empty. There'll be either an automated system that kind of just basically dispenses the item into the box, or in some more manual operations, there'll be people literally going around the warehouse picking and packing the boxes. And it gets to the end of the conveyor belt, and it gets given a tag of which van it's going into, and it gets the lid put on top. But the vast majority of them, this is just completely empty. There might be, 4 packs of paracetamol in a box that's like this big, so the vast majority of the time you're shipping this product and it's more plastic box than it is product itself. And so we were like, well, this is really silly. Like, surely there's a box that just folds, to its content that you can kind of put stuff in. And there wasn't. I mean, ironically, it's a very simple solution. However, we're still here 2 years on developing the business, but that was the main crux to start Boxxdocks off as a company. But when we then went in front of clients and we started speaking to people very, very early on, just to make sure that what we were doing was what they wanted, we realized we'd stumbled upon something far larger than we had anticipated. And then we realized, oh, wait a second, this is not only a huge problem in regards to the box, but actually the whole visibility of the supply chain in regards to customers not understanding where the boxes are, how much they're spending, where they're going, where they're breaking, who's stealing them, what routes they're going to, what's the content of these boxes, the whole holistic data set that kind of surrounds this box. So we coined the term the box as a service. So it's, you know, the idea that actually, you know, this isn't just an asset class.
That's
yeah,
nice.
But actually this is a service provider. So yeah, that's basically kind of where the business started. But in terms of the background of the founders, so Alessandro is from Milan, worked with Amajid for a few years in some logistics projects over there. The three of us then met together. I met Amajid through this consultancy company.
Yeah.
And then the three of us came together over COVID. I then have just been building it since. And obviously, you know, when you first start out, we were remote and it was kind of weekly meetings. And then the more that we've developed, the more that we work together. So yeah, we're now full-time on the project together in office over here.
Yeah, so I think several nuggets over there, James. So I think that's really key to understanding, you know, the backstory behind it.
Yeah.
So maybe touching on the team itself, Amarjit, Alex, and yourself. So just help me understand that. How did you all see, like, in terms of visualizing the problem, in terms of from different angles, and each of you all bring in different perspectives?
Yeah.
How do you think, as you know, aspiring entrepreneurs here and all around the world, where do you think that sweet spot lies in terms of finding co-founders?
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of us as a team, we work so well together because we all have extremely diverse skill sets. So no one's stepping on each other's toes. So for example, my background being in architecture, I deal with all the manufacturing, the design, the interface, the engineering, the hardware element. Alessandro is a trained lawyer and doing restructuring in business logistics operations, both in the UK and Italy. And so in terms of structuring a company, making sure that the framework for scale is already there, you know, making sure the IP, the trademarks, all of the things in which you need to protect yourself are there as well. And obviously Amajid, working in logistics for so many years, knows the right people to speak to, understands the market, has lived and breathed it. So in terms of how we work together as co-founders and how we found each other, was we all brought something extremely fundamental to the business together, which enabled us to work really well and actually challenge each other constantly. So, you know, I'll see one thing, but, you know, Alessandro will see something else. Amajid needs it next day, so we need to speed up and get it out the door quicker than ever before. So as a team, you know, we work excellently together. But in terms of, you know, for other people finding co-founders, it's finding people you can just work with. You know, first and foremost, you know, do you like the person? Can you work together, and can you communicate well together as a team? And that's kind of the bedrock. You know, if you don't have that, it's just not going to work. But I think, you know, it's also finding people with diverse skill sets. You've got to challenge each other. You can't just all have the same vision and everything's going to work seamlessly. It's about challenging each other in order to get the best out of the business and to push things forward. And as well, just being honest with each other. You know, understanding that some products, you know, may not work, and actually it's best to scrap those and go for something else. So, you know, there's multiple facets to finding people, but I think, you know, we found each other at work, which is slightly different to finding people at university, but there are plenty. I mean, obviously, both being from UCL, there's plenty of talented people out there that you could find to kickstart your own project with. Yeah,
so I think that's a really couple of key points that you mentioned. And, you know, one, that complementarity element, you know, looking for people who complement each other's skills, and being hyper realistic and being critical, not being afraid to fail. I think those are all very important skill sets that folks need to really pick up. And I think, like you said, what's most important is, can folks work together? Because at the end of the day, if you know, you and I, your peers, like Tom and Tim across the states, are not able to sit down and have a chat and being realistic about what is the problem, this is what needs to be done. I think that is at the core of it. That's what really is the bread and butter of a successful team and a successful company. So I think it's really good that you put that all out there, because those are things that folks need to hear. And the other point is that we don't need to wait for an invitation to find a co-founder. Sometimes
No,
we just
no.
while working on things, we might realize that, okay, there's a problem here, and we don't need to wait for that invitation. And identifying the problem and then having a go at it, I think makes you can get a lot more done in the process, because then you're already working on it.
Yes.
While waiting to do an entire market research to identify a problem. So very well put there. And I think that's a very great example that you outlined as well. And that too during COVID, when all the problems were being exposed.
Yeah, I think as well, like in media and press today, people seem to celebrate this idea of like the one guy who can fix everything, right? You know, you see this more than ever with like Elon Musk, right? With this one guy who apparently can solve everything, and it's like it's completely untrue. You know, you need to appreciate the fact that actually you need a team behind these people. You need people to help you. You know, one hand can't clap, and so actually, you know, I think, especially with men, you know, you see this a lot of like, you know, I can solve everything. I will do everything. I will be a sole founder. And it's like, no, you're going to need a lot of help. You need co-founders there, because there are moments when the work is so intense. You need other people to boost your morale and keep you going. And so I think that as well, for a younger generation, it's like, embrace having co-founders. They bring a lot more than you think they do. You know, get away from the press of like, oh, the one guy who solved everything, you know, and actually embrace having a team.
I think very good point there that you mentioned, and I think it's worth actually stepping into that, because if you're familiar with Kipchoge, the world marathon world record holder, 1% of a team is way greater than 100% of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's as perfectly put as how you could imagine it. And it's just that having those different vantage points and also identifying problems from different perspectives and everyone bringing a different flavor to the dish really helps to understand problems, one, and two, also bring in a solution, a point of an idea for a solution from a completely different point of view that other people with a different background might completely miss. So I think that's one aspect of the value of the team. And secondly, the point that you mentioned as well, to help really understand where we could work better in terms of addressing different problems. So for example, I might take 15 hours to get a particular job done. You might just take 5 hours because you're way more skilled in that particular area. And thereby really leveraging each member's capabilities. So, and I think that makes a massive difference between, say, having an MVP in 5 months versus having an MVP in, say, 6 years.
You need that. There's this like beautiful balance between push and pull. You know, like for example, I'm like very hard and fast. So for me, it's like I want everything done immediately. I want it done amazingly. I want everything to look perfect. Whereas Alessandro is much slower. You know, let's build it properly. Let's make sure the stuff is in place. And actually, the dynamic between the two of us works really well together, because you're able to speed things up when need be, but also make sure that the homework is done. And so you need a bit of both of that. You can't all just be, let's run to the finishing line and see, you know, where we get to. You need that dynamic as a team to work really well together. And like I said again, just embrace it. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, I've learned loads from my co-founders that I didn't know before. So, you know, it's constantly.
Let's dive into that a little bit there, James. So that entire push and pull element, because now understand, like, especially when companies are starting off, everything is, you know, in a smaller bubble. But gradually, as companies, startups, small, medium-sized enterprises scale up, I think the push and pull really makes a big difference, because then all of a sudden you need to look at quality. All of a sudden you need to look at so many different angles, from regulatory points of view, from customers' point of view. Then you need to like the entire finance aspect becomes a much bigger plays a much bigger role. And of course, then you need to be like discussions with stakeholders, investors, all of that all come into play, because all of a sudden it's not just a 1-person, 2-person team. It's much more people involved here. So help me understand here how that push and pull element becomes more important as the company scales up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, this is kind of, you know, very relevant to us where we are right now, right? Because, you know, we've secured our first round of investment. So we've got this money that we're trying to deploy in order to speed up the process of what we're doing to get to market quicker. And you're speaking to, you know, manufacturers, you're speaking to prototype specialists, you're trying to do CAD work, you're trying to, you know, understand your competitors, you're trying to, speak to developers. At the same time, you're also trying to start that outreach for investors, to start to introduce yourself to them so that they understand what the vision is. Trying to do outreach. You're spinning so many plates that you need co-founders along the way in order to help you and help each other deal with those balancing of those plates. And don't get me wrong, there are some that you're going to have to put down for 5 minutes, but I think that especially as a startup, when you start to kind of, I don't want to use the word scale just yet because we're not scaling, but in terms of like kind of really pushing that development in order to then launch to market and then scale, there's so many different elements to a business in which are either overlooked or not understood or crop up along the way in which weren't anticipated, that you need to be able to delegate and to help each other out as much as possible. And also work really late because you're not going to get everything done in 9 to 5. So, you're going to have to work weekends. You're going to have to work super late into the night. That's just life, unfortunately. But in all fairness, I think most people who go into startups kind of respect that you're going to be working an awful lot. But I think as a team, it's about communication. It's about making sure that everyone understands what kind of the vision is, challenging each other. And then obviously it's when you eventually, like you say, you start developing a larger element of the company and you start to kind of grow everything, build that narrative, build that vision. It's about dividing up the work in an appropriate way and playing on people's strengths more than ever.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things that you mentioned there, James. How important is delegation?
I spoke to someone the other day and they said that, really successful people are really good at delegating. Just to be frankly honest, I was that person where any project that came along, I'm more than happy to jump on that. Yes, I'll do that. Absolutely. And then, very quickly you realize you end up just sitting at your desk all the time, not, just doing the dirty work. So I think more than ever, it's about trying to find people who can help you with that process and delegate out, which, and basically what that means is you have to relinquish responsibility over something in order for someone else to do it. And, I guess in my educational background, especially in architecture school where you're doing all the projects on your own, a lot of people don't learn delegation and relinquishing kind of authorship over work. And so, there are moments when you're like, oh, I'd really love to be the one doing that. At the same time, that's not as important as this. Therefore, we've got to do this. So I think it's a very tricky, like slippery slope there because like, after all, it's your baby. You want to make sure it's looked after well. So that's why I was a bit curious about your take on that because because different people take it different ways. Some people love to delegate and make sure the QC is done very well. But some people, like especially if you have a very strong team, you're very confident and you know that A, B, and C, you could rely on them to get a good job done. I think it's great that like the way you put it as well, because once we understand the importance of delegation, how that frees up way more time in order to do many other things. I think that just creates a whole new world there. Absolutely. And it's the key to that is trust. And that's where co-founders comes in, which is that you can delegate a piece of work out, or you don't even need to worry about delegation because you understand that they are also on the same wavelength, which is that they're going to do it as well. So it's the ability to say, hey, listen, can you just take that off my hands for 5 minutes? And then you understand that they're going to do a good job and you don't need to cross-reference it. Can you send that email to that person and I don't need to worry about it again, rather than being kind of paranoid about kind of the standard of stuff. So you need to find co-founders who you can trust, who can just do that for you.
Yeah, I think amazing and very well. I think it's good that we painted that picture as well, James. So let's circle back to what we were talking about. Now, just imagine hypothetically. Just imagine just shipping empty containers around.
It's silly. It's like Yeah, it's a funny one. Logistics companies will paint this picture that everything is super, super efficient. Everything is, automated. There's a data log for everything. Everything is super, super well organized. And actually, you go behind the scenes and you realize that, like everyone else, they're challenging, they're facing these challenges and they need people to come and provide solutions for them. And not everything is as efficient as they want it to be. And so, where we came in was just listen, this is a very, very simple solution to a very complicated issue. We can enable you to ship more in the same space because as one box folds, you can put two in the space of one.
Yeah.
But then also it's I kind of go back to the fact that these boxes have been overlooked for so many years.
Yeah.
They are just a plastic box to so many people, but actually what you don't understand is, okay, that plastic going into the van compounds to weight, which changes your fuel efficiency of the van, which changes the amount of fuel being used, right? So if you make the box lighter, you can save fuel efficiency, which means that you can reduce your fuel costs, right? Which is one thing that we're 11% lighter than our lead competitor, which means that a van can save a gallon of fuel per day while in operation. And then you scale that to all of Amazon's fleets, or you scale that to all of XPO's lorries. All of a sudden you're making, quite a tangible real world impact to both these companies, but also to the environment because you're burning less fuel. Yeah. Or, in the transition to EVs now, it's about saying, well, actually, because these boxes are lighter, your range is increased. So you can ship more in one route on one charge than you would do elsewhere. So there's so many different avenues that we can take this conversation down regarding these boxes. But yeah, the initial element to the business, like we said before, was obviously the folding feature, but actually, that is one cornerstone to a much larger, service provider.
It's a much bigger problem because the why I asked that question as well, because everyone can sort of visualize what a shipping container looks like.
Yeah.
And regardless of if I park one car in there, or even if I send 2 thumb drives, it's still going to be that one container, regardless of what is in there.
Yeah.
So now that being translated to the problem that Boxxdocks is addressing. So that flexibility that Boxxdocks provides really helps to change that game. So if I'm shipping 2 thumb drives, I could ship it in a container that is of that sort, and I can fill it in with anything in between.
Yeah.
I think it's really worth understanding and appreciating the nature of the problem here. So especially from an environmental and sustainability perspective, because say Jack over here and Jill across the street might just see clicking buttons and ordering on Amazon or eBay or whatever, but we don't really understand and appreciate what's happening in the background. Might be worth help to paint that picture for us, James.
The general public, in regards to their relationship with logistics, all that they witness is a guy knocking on the front door and handing them a cardboard box, right? And checking out on Amazon.com
and complaining when it's late.
And then being annoyed when it doesn't turn up. But they don't see that from the moment you pay for an item to the moment it turns up your front door, you don't have any visibility over what's happening there. You have none, and so we're a B2B business. We're not dealing necessarily with the general public, but in terms of going back to your sustainability element, is the amount of change along that process in which are offsetting, are releasing carbon to the atmosphere, but also this is kind of where we're going down the IoT and the tech route behind the business and the backbone. But what we're doing is the box is the only item along an entire supply chain that comes across that is visible across the entire supply chain, right? So from the moment it enters a warehouse to the moment it arrives at your front door, the only thing that is common along that route is the box, right? So you've got factory and warehouse, you've got pick and place automation, you've got conveyor belts, you then have the van, you have the infrastructure for the van, you have the driver himself, but actually along that whole chain is just the box. And if you track and monitor that box, you get a picture of the entire supply chain in one go. And so companies, I'm running off your sustainability point, right? But because we can get back to kind of painting that picture of the behind the scenes. But for companies in particular, they try to monitor their warehouse, they try to monitor their vans, and then they try to monitor their efficiencies along that chain, right? So every single point is being tracked. But actually what we're saying is if you just track the box, you get visibility of the entire thing. And so it's understanding where these boxes are going, what are the weights of the box, how many boxes are going missing, what's the volume of these parcels, everything. So you can provide an entire unanimous picture of this entire sector itself in one kind of snapshot.
And why is that important, James?
Pardon?
Why is that important?
So companies themselves now, more than ever, are trying to decarbonize their supply chains. So COP 26 is 27 now. In Egypt. So companies now more than ever are being forced to decarbonize at an incredibly fast pace. And someone put it to me perfectly the other day. They said, sustainability teams in corporate companies have been stuck in the broom cupboard for the last 20 years. And since COVID, they have now been taken out of the broom cupboard and placed into the board meetings. And everyone at the board is looking at people in sustainability saying, so go on, tell me, what do we do? And they're saying, well, I've been telling you for the last 20 years that we need to decarbonize, but B, it's not as quickly as you think. These are ginormous supply chains in which take ages to pivot and change. And so companies are finding extremely hard and rapidly are in need of understanding that entire chain and everything that's going on there in a snapshot and understanding, okay, how can we plug the holes? Where are we relinquishing carbon? Where are we losing plastics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what our back-end software and IoT technology is doing on top of these boxes, it is providing that entire image. Where are your boxes? How many have you shipped? How many have you lost? What are the route numbers? When was it last picked up? Who was the van driver when these boxes went missing? So where we can find them again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and on that note, James, I think it's also worth appreciating that, okay, I ordered something today, I ordered something tomorrow, yesterday, and I ordered something, I'm planning to order something tomorrow as well. But on the same note, it's also worth appreciating that, okay, that accounts to so many kilograms of carbon.
Yeah.
And all of that, and just putting all of that together, and that's just for one person. And then likewise in a neighborhood, in a city, all of that taken together, that all offsets to so much. And I think if you're looking at it from a planet perspective, I think it's really important that everyone really understands and appreciates that ordering online, yes, as convenient as it is also something to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our planet, and I think it's equally our responsibility to look for more sustainable logistics and things like that in the back end as well, because at the end of the day, we are responsible and so are the companies as well.
Yeah, and I think the major issue for companies now, though, is they're trying to really pick out these key metrics, which is determining their carbon footprint. And the problem is those metrics aren't there, so in order to actually validate and understand kind of how much carbon these companies are ever emitting, you need key fundamental data along the routes. And most companies are going to use a finger to the wind, how do we kind of put this picture together? How does it kind of work? Yeah. I mean, not for all companies, right? But for a lot of companies that are trying to give off this sustainability image, a lot of it is just like kind of, can we find any information that we've collected to kind of put together to kind of propose this green image? And then, of course, you then come into the conversation of greenwashing, which is loads of companies portraying and painting this picture of how green they are and actually not boiling down to the fundamental basics and saying, no, this is actually not sustainable at all. And you're just trying to paint a nice picture for it. So, what we're doing is providing that visibility. There's the hardware element, as always, the folding box, recycled plastics, UK manufacturing, small supply chains, very quick to deploy. But then there's the software and the data backbone to the business, which is visibility, auditing, understanding, and that kind of subscription model that ties the entire business together into a single package. So yeah, that's kind of hopefully answering your question about sustainability in a more general term.
Yeah, I think we really painted that picture overall there, James. So thanks a lot for that. So on that note, I want to slightly pivot here and ask you a different type of question. So from Boxxdocks where it used to be, the Boxxdocks where it is today, and Boxxdocks where you see it going to be, what it is going to look like, say in 5 years time or 10 years time, or whatever that you have in mind there. What is the Boxxdocks dream, James?
Yeah, this is actually quite funny. So I'll tell you, there's a kind of 3 key milestones to where we are today, and then kind of going forward from that. So when we started out the business, it was all focused on hardware, foldable box, right? And the business was extremely pragmatic. How do we manufacture this? How do we sell it? We then realized, okay, we stumbled upon a much larger issue. The market is ginormous. This could be reasonably large. And then it was the visibility element, which then ties this business together. So where Boxxdocks is today is we've secured pre-seed investment from an American VC fund, Techstars, which we're based in their office now, which is helping us to grow that business proposition, to build that subscription model, to articulate to both investors but also the wider community of people, and especially the most important people, our clients, which is, this is what we're doing, this is the vision, and if you get on board early, you can be part of this process to decarbonize, but also to essentially upgrade your logistics operation. Where this company is going, though, in both the near term and then eventually kind of the big dream, the big American vision behind this company is we want to become the unanimous and global supplier of all tote boxes globally, right? And then provide that visibility element. So kind of in summary, Maersk standardized shipping containers, CHEP standardized the pallet, and then Boxxdocks standardized the tote box. And those 3 companies that come together then tie up basically logistics in general. But the real element behind this now is that data backbone, which is then going to push this forward. But we've always been very honest with people, which is, we essentially stumbled into this. And then it wasn't until kind of we got in front of clients and realized it was bigger. And then the more the product's developed and the more that kind of the outreach is taking shape, is this business has the potential to genuinely change things for the better in terms of carbon, but also for our clients to ship more in a sustainable manner and actually have a holistic understanding about what they're doing in regards to their operations. So there's multiple facets that this company can go down. As I said, we're pre-seed. We're developing all of these out at the moment. We've got a wonderful team of both mentors, advisors, key stakeholders, and clients who we're working with on a daily basis to really help sort of shape this vision together. And then next year we're going for a seed investment, and then you're really sort of putting our foot down on the gas to get this company going, and then hopefully Series A and Series B in order to then scale this to a global market. But also breaking out of Europe and North America and go globally, especially India, Oceania and South America.
Amazing. So Boxxdocks, synonymous to a box.
Yeah. It's literally it's synonymous with box as a service.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you have that really thought out plan there. And I think that's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to really seeing it happening, because I know in the process, a lot of other problems will be solved as well. So I'm really looking forward to that, James. And on a serious note, all the best for that. And on that note, I also want to come back to this. I understand that you all are also in a phase of growth as well here, James.
Yeah.
And help me understand, what are the main challenges that you all are facing, especially as you all grow as a company, and what sort of help could you expect that to come your way, and what sort of changes that would really make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, we're in kind of the validation phase behind the business, right? Which is, we need to show to people that the 3 of us as a team, we can manufacture a box, we can sell a box, and we can get it to market, right? To prove the concept behind the business. And that is essentially the key phase that we're in at the moment. Once we've done that, and you kind of get the green seal of approval that says, okay, great, you can do what it says on the tin. Now let's go and scale. Let's make a real impact, because again, logistics only works at scale. It doesn't work with 100 boxes or 1 million boxes. It works when you have hundreds of million boxes.
Or a billion.
Yeah, ideally the whole market. It works at scale. So sorry, going back to your question was, could you repeat the question again?
So my question was like, what are the challenges?
Oh, the challenges,
as you
yeah.
speak, the team is facing, and what help would really make a difference? Be it connections, be it investments, be it collaboration opportunities, be it new team members coming in, the team growing. Help me paint that picture there.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge at the moment is, we've got a lot of work on. There's only 3 of us. It's about juggling those plates and getting in front of the right people, right? So you're balancing both kind of a client-facing element of the business, but also the development at the back end, right? So there's those kind of two elements. I mean, in terms of the investor part, I mean, we're all pretty pragmatic at the business, which is we're not just running around as a startup trying to chase investment. It's about building the company first, getting the narrative in place. If it was up to me, we wouldn't need investment, but nevertheless, you do need it in order to scale quickly. So, where we are in terms of our challenges, it's essentially speaking, getting in front of the right people in order to help and build this company with us, right? Which means building that narrative and that vision about where this company is going to go, where's its value propositions, and how is it going to help companies and clients along the way. And then, I guess as well, the other kind of part to this in terms of, what we're trying to do and in terms of, I guess, pain points is, we want to build a community. We want to build a community behind what we're doing about both our vision and our narrative, which is sustainable, smart logistics of these service-based boxes. Because, logistics is a very closed industry. You don't see supply chains. You don't really gain much access or insight to what's going on. And it's about being transparent, and it's about showcasing what you're doing and why your company is building value in both a financial sense, but also in a sort of more of a socio-economical sense as such. So there's a few kind of pain points. I mean, at the end of the day, the morale here is really high. So, it's not all hard slog. It's really enjoyable. But I guess it's finding those right people to help out. And it's getting them in early, and but in all fairness, there isn't actually one key element that we're really struggling with. Textiles have been I can't rate them highly enough. They've been incredible with who we both met and been introduced to. Our mentors are excellent, constantly challenging us, constantly kind of reframing the question in a different way. So we've been very great with that. Everyone who's very close to Boxxdocks very much believes in what we're doing and is always willing to help out and support. So that's excellent. It's just now clients and selling.
Yeah, there we go. And I think on that note, we can slightly pivot as well to understand what sort of supportive environment. You mentioned a few names there as well. What sort of supporting environment that you have built around Boxxdocks? And how is that helping the team in terms of those next steps?
So it's both personal. It first starts with family, right? So everyone's family understands, right, that we're basically never there for family events and we're always working. So there's that element of support, which is, I understand what you're doing. I understand that startups are really hard and we're willing to support you along that journey, right? Which takes a huge weight off your shoulders. Then there is the kind of the stakeholder element of people who are really interested in the business, not necessarily, building the company with you, but are willing to kind of be there as a sounding board, to challenge your ideas, to challenge your, what you're trying to do. It's to kind of get you out of that narrow-minded frame set of constantly working on it every day and saying, okay, stop. Is that the most important thing right now? Let's change and do this. This is actually far more important. We can come back to that later. So there's those kind of elements to things. But, like I said, I mean, we're incredibly lucky. We've got amazing people around us. Amajid's friends, he's got some potential investors as well who, constantly check in on us and actually understand what we're doing. What's your development? What have you been up to in the last 3 months? Where are you going? What can we help with? Are there any soft introductions that we can make for you? Are there any clients that we know that we've worked with in the past that can, who would be interested in this? So there's multiple facets to that. But yeah, I mean, just to summarize is, we've been very lucky with the people on board from a very, very, early stage who have been both interested, but also willing to help out, along that process. So it's key. You need people along the way to help you because you just need to get out of that rut of work, and you need someone to kind of, always give you a bit of a nudge, or to re-inspire you, or to kind of, shed a bit of perspective on things. So yeah, they're very much needed. And like I said, we've been lucky with everyone who's been around us.
Yeah, I think that's lovely to hear that, James, because especially like you mentioned it earlier as well, one hand can't clap alone.
No.
And the larger the room, the louder the echo.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's just find people who are interested, who both care about you as a person, right? Because they will always be there to support you, irrespective of whatever happens. But also find people who believe in the narrative and the vision of your business, right? Who both either get it from a financial standpoint, but actually say, no, this business can make a change, it can make a difference for the better, and I am willing to be along there to guide you and to help you along that process. And those people are as important at times as co-founders, because they enable the team to be able to kind of maybe relax a little bit, but also to kind of always inspire you for that next step. And so I can't thank, and I know the people in my head and all the Techstars team as well, who will work with us late into the night. So I can't thank these people enough. They are excellent at what they do.
Yeah, I think very well put. I understand what you're trying to say. It's not a home game if there's no home crowd.
No.
So yeah, so amazing to know that supportive network is built around Boxxdocks as well. And I think that's a really important message for all aspiring founders and entrepreneurs there already. Get your home crowd built, get them motivated, because you need that home crowd advantage when you're playing that home game. And especially as the company grows, you want that momentum with you. You need that supportive network, because there will be days, and I'm sure you could speak to this as well. There will be days that are off days.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah, it's like your supporters, right? It's just people who are in your corner, who are willing to listen to you, willing just to be a sounding board, and they're crucial to any startup, because you need to get perspective on things. You need to get a bit of distance every now and again. Don't get me wrong, family's one thing, but especially having supporters who have either been through what you've done or understand what you're doing, just to kind of giving you a bit of foresight and perspective over everything. So yeah, no, definitely crucial. But yeah, like I said earlier, in regards to Boxxdocks, we've got some amazing people on board, who both ask the right questions, but also know when to challenge us the most. So a good example of this was last Tuesday. We were doing some modeling of numbers, and a few things cropped up, and it was just those moments to then push on forward and solve some key issues out, which we didn't foresee. So yeah, you need those people.
Yeah, certainly. And on that note, what advice would you give to people who are looking to build that supporting network, perhaps who are still in that early phase, and who are really looking to build that, not necessarily the team, but rather that supporting network that would help cheer them on, just as your network you have been able to build your home crowd, if I put it that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of people kind of misinterpret the idea of people to support you, rather than people just to, it's not about press and outreach and kind of someone blowing sunshine up your ass. It's about someone who has the ability to listen to you. So I think from a very early startup, the key things that you want to be as a founder in terms of finding someone or reaching out is, be honest and transparent where you are, because that allows people to best navigate the questions in which to ask and challenge you on. But also transparency enables people to actually understand where you are as a founder and how to help you most. Things aren't always rosy. Things aren't always plain sailing and easy. It's very easy to kind of gloss over things in LinkedIn or on press as being all amazing. But the point of a mentor, or the point of an advisor to lean on, is that they're there to be a sounding board for any issue a company has. So yeah, to kind of second it, my advice would be as transparent, as honest as possible, but also come with questions that you have. It's not just a venting process. It's about coming and asking key questions and areas in which you lack, and understand where you lack knowledge and foresight, and see if they can point you in the right direction. One thing I have found out in just life in general is if you ask people for help, the vast majority of people will help you because they like the fact that they are being perceived as someone who knows more than someone else.
Yeah.
So
And
actually,
then like people are willing to help if you're willing to put your hand up, really.
exactly, yeah, people like that. So just be straight to the point, honest. We're stuck on this. We don't know how to get from A to B. We're in loggerheads, or we didn't see it like this. Could you please give us some guidance? That'd be brilliant. So, that's probably my key advice.
Yeah, and I think on that note, like sometimes some say if people are genuinely helpful or not, maybe they might not have the help that you need, but they might know someone who might have that information that you're really looking for, or might know the people who you might need introductions to. So sometimes you never know what you could expect, but if you don't ask, you would never know anyway.
Yeah. And you'll know who the people are though who are going to help you, because startups are usually very strapped for cash. And so, there isn't this kind of paid consultancy service. So the point of a mentor or a leadership role or a chairperson or someone just to kind of listen to you every quarter or so is someone who has, who believes in the vision of the company and you personally. That is not asking for, oh, by the way, I charge X at the end of this conversation. So yeah.
So like on that note again, like how would you advise people to go and find their mentors? I won't say really find their mentors per se, but where should they look? Where should they start?
I think there's a series of different avenues to take it. I've been, our connection to UCL was through myself, and obviously just being a former student. So there are plenty of people at UCL who are willing to help. Some great guys. I mean, recently with some great fellows we met over at the engineering department in regards to the tech aspect of what we're doing at Boxxdocks, who are able to guide us and help us in what we're doing and to signpost you in the right direction. So there's some amazing people out there. There's definitely people on LinkedIn, especially when you start posting a bit about what you do. Certain people on LinkedIn within that kind of same space.
I think we connected on LinkedIn as well.
On LinkedIn, yeah. But they'll find you. They'll find you and reach out to you. There's a few phishing sales emails, but you can kind of sift through those. Friends and family. I mean, to be honest with you, I was really lucky. I had some great family connections who just so happened to be really interested in my own personal progression. So they've come on board to Boxxdocks to a certain capacity in regards to kind of just be an element of guidance. But just a second earlier, we're talking about Techstars. Techstars have an excellent network of mentors who, mentors in particular who have proven themselves to have achieved something themselves prior to then going and advising others. So, they have an amazing network in which we're, very much in touch with on a weekly basis to kind of signpost us and actually force us to address issues that we're facing, but also to showcase the progression every week of what we're doing. So, they're out there.
I think that's amazing to hear as well. Anyway, I'll put the link for Techstars as well in the description for those who are interested. But on that same note, I think perhaps something that might be of interest is the fact that sometimes the ecosystem that we are in also makes a big difference. For example, that London ecosystem, for instance, as an example, is an amazing area to really look at. Should there if we are if we are talking tech, be it logistics, so on and so forth. There are so many events that are happening in our relevant environments that you could really tap into as well. And similarly in Silicon Valley or wherever you are in the world, I think that's another thing I suppose would make a great way to really meet people, be it networking events, so on and so forth. That's been phenomenal.
London has been phenomenal. Well, I actually was just reading on LinkedIn. Actually, I think London, isn't the UK is now second in the world for startup investment?
Exactly.
Just behind the US, but it's beat China and India. So London is one of the top places to be for startups, and you surround yourself with like-minded individuals who they themselves will point you in the right direction. So they're all out there. I think people who do go into startups do have that kind of mentality to go and seek these things out as well, though. So I do believe that there is a certain type of character who has the ability to find these things as well. So
definitely
definitely.
I think honestly, James, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege speaking to you.
No
And
worries. No worries.
and like I'm also conscious of time. I'm really perhaps to in a way wrap up a bit.
Yeah.
So if you were to write a letter to yourself,
Yeah.
to the 15-year-old James,
Yeah.
to the current James,
Yeah.
and the future James, who's probably running a massive logistics operation in Boxxdocks.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So what would you include in that letter? So just bearing in mind, this is when a box is synonymous to Boxxdocks.
Yeah. That's a really tough question. I'm thinking to a 15-year-old me, what would I have said? I think there's definitely an element of kind of chill out a little bit more. I'm a fanatic when it comes to work, so I think there's definitely an element. I've missed a few family events, and I've missed a few kind of other events with friends that I probably should have gone to. That I was like, no, I'm working. Sorry, got to crack in. So there are definitely a few of those that I think, in hindsight, I should have gone to. I think there's an element that I would have probably written to myself and said, think some things are out of your control. You can't make everything go in the right direction. To myself now, what would I say to myself now if I were to write to myself? I don't. You really stumped me this question. To myself when I'm older, I probably have a lot more hindsight. I mean, the thing is because we're right in the midst of this, right? We're right in the middle of investment. We're right in the middle of building the startup. We're now, in front of clients with these boxes. It's kind of all over the place. So there's probably I can't probably figure out exactly what I would say to myself. But I think honestly, it would just be, listen, you're going to get there. The hard work's going to pay off. I think now more than ever, you can kind of see the wood from the trees, and the kind of the hard work in the past, the culmination of all those years of hard work. Because probably about 15 was when I really kicked into gear with work and studying. It's finally starting to really pay off in dividends, and things are starting to speed up in life. It's not such a hard slog anymore. Things are starting to accelerate away from themselves. So I think there's an element of, keep focused, keep your head down, keep working, ignore the distractions and the parties, because actually long term, this is going to pay off. And I guess it is, to write myself now would be, long-term gratification, pause the instant stuff and think for the long term. And actually that's where the success is. It's not necessarily just the here and now and the instant gratification part. So I don't know what I'd write to I'm terrible at writing as well, so probably would be incomprehensible for anyone to read anyway. So
but at the end of the day, it's yourself who's going to read it. But I'm sure but I'm sure there's just so many key nuggets that we came across throughout this amazing chat that we had. But I'm sure there would be so much to take home for anyone who really tunes in. So I really hope this conversation that we had would be beneficial to even one person. I think that would be so amazing, because I'm sure a lot of people will be looking up to you in years to come. So
fingers crossed. I mean, I just like to, the thing is none of this was forced. The Boxxdocks thing and everything, it wasn't forced. And I would actually say to a lot of people, especially I think now more than ever, I think the amazing thing about startups is they're becoming more accessible for people to get involved in.
Massive difference.
They're becoming more of a kind of, they're becoming more accessible for people to go and be employed by as well, more than ever. However, I would say that I think for a lot of people in my generation, our generation, is people are forcing themselves to start a startup because of the allure of what a startup is, because we read so much in the press and in social media. And I think that actually for a lot of people, and what I hope I can kind of portray to a lot of people is it's not what it all cracks up to be. It's an awful lot of work. It's incredibly lonely. It's incredibly enjoyable because you're building something with your name above the door. But I think I just don't think you should force things. Just let it be. Go with what you enjoy, and if an idea comes across that is burning you and that you want to do something about it, then you will. So hopefully there's a nugget of advice to some people out there. But yeah, listen, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so if anyone needs anything from me, just pop me a message. So
yeah, I think on that note, I think That's amazingly well put there, James. So and on that note, I also want to segue to what you were just coming to. Maybe just for everyone else out there, just let us know where can we find more about Boxxdocks. Where could we find Boxxdocks on LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course, how could people reach out to you and find you as well?
Yeah, so we're based in Central Holborn in London, in one of the big WeWorks in Aldwych House. So that's where we're geographically located. Yeah, reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. Yeah, mainly LinkedIn is the best. My email is james@boxxdocks.com. It's all on the website as well. And so, yeah, reach out to my co-founders as well. They're more than happy to respond. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can be there, listen, as I said, we're right in the middle of things. So, we can share kind of stories right now. Like you say, 10 years down the line might be very different. So, but yeah, feel free to reach out. But, we are working an awful lot, so I might take a while to respond, but I will get back to you. So
lovely, amazing. Anyway, I'll put all the relevant links in the description as well. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, James, and
thank you.
And all the best for Boxxdocks. And yeah, really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to really seeing how the entire logistics space is changing. It is evolving. I'm really looking forward to see how Boxxdocks is going to make that difference. So really looking forward to it, James. All the best.
No, thank you very much for your time. And well, yeah, I mean, hopefully we've got a lot more coming. I mean, very soon, hopefully we've got a lot more coming out, especially with kind of showing people more of what we're doing. So yeah, brilliant. No, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me on the podcast as well.
My pleasure. All right, take care, James.
Cheers. Have a good one.